Hello and welcome back to the Wasteland, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about Lead Belly, the perk. This is going to be spanning multiple Fallout games, and we're kind of going to go over the history of Lead Belly, and kind of what I think it was designed for, and kind of how it's treated mostly by the community now. So, Lead Belly first appeared in Fallout 3, and in Fallout 3, Lead Belly required you to be level 6, and for you to also have 5 endurance. You could only get this once, and the effect of Lead Belly made it so that you take 50% less radiation from drinking from irradiated water sources. This is kind of an interesting concept of a perk. Now, unfortunately, this perk I don't think worked the way that they were hoping that it would. Lead Belly was often considered one of the worst perks in Fallout 3, and basically no build ever needed to get it. Even if you were not going with one of the dedicated, really strong builds in Fallout 3, which was generally a VATS build, mixed with kind of everything else because you could get the majority of the perks in Fallout 3, Lead Belly was still probably not going to make it high up on your to-do list or to-get list. Taking 50% less radiation when drinking from a water source does sound kind of useful because radiation can be a potential factor in the Fallout games, where if you build up enough radiation, you will die from it, and every 200 rads that you build up, you will also suffer negative consequences from that. The main issue with this, though, is that radiation, at least in Fallout 3, doesn't really matter that much. You get a ton of rad away so that you can get rid of all your radiation, no problem. There is also the Rad X pills that you can take, which just make it so that you will take reduced radiation from all sources, not just from drinking the water. The main way I think that this was supposed to be implemented is that it was more of a survival-based perk and kind of incentivized you to drink from maybe not so safe sources so that you could regenerate HP from this without having to worry about getting the negative effects of drinking the water sources. And there's kind of two issues with this. The first one is drinking from any of these sources that usually have high amounts of radiation don't really give you that much healing, so it's usually not worth doing in the first place. And the second is simply that it's just not an efficient way to get back healing compared to just eating stuff. It does take a decent amount of time in order for you to do this. It will also require you to be out of combat when you're doing this. And if you can find a water source, like a water fountain, there's a good chance that you can pop some Rad-X and then just drink from it normally. So Lead Belly was definitely on the lower end of perks in Fallout 3. Let's move on to New Vegas and talk about it there, where it did get some slight changes, both for better and for worse. So Lead Belly, once again, does require you to be level 6 in Fallout New Vegas, and for you to have either 5 endurance or 40 survival, which does kind of make it a little bit better because you don't necessarily need to have special stat investment, and if you're not going with endurance, or not a high amount of endurance, or even just a normal amount of endurance, then you can still get this perk just thanks to your survival skill, which is kind of useful. This one is also slightly different in that you get 50% reduced radiation from both consuming water and from consuming food. So you do have another buff to this, which this can make it a little bit more useful, because if you're playing on the hardcore difficulty, then food and water is going to be a factor that you're going to need to keep managing as the game goes on and on. That being said, though, water still doesn't go down super quick, so you don't usually have to worry about water. Radiation is a little bit more of an issue in New Vegas because I found that you don't get as much right away in Rad-X as you do in Fallout 3. And now that it includes food, food is a really good way to get back health in New Vegas. Now, with all that being said, in Fallout New Vegas, Lead Belly is actually even worse than it is in Fallout 3. And it's not necessarily Lead Belly's fault, it was more the fault of adding in a implant that you can get that just does Lead Belly's job but better. So if you have Old World Blues, then you can get the implant Y3. This makes it so you don't take any radiation from water. So the only bonus that you would get from taking Lead Belly on top of this is getting reduced radiation from healing, which could be okay, but at a level 6 perk, that's where you're starting to get some really, really good perks in New Vegas. Perks like Shotgun Surgeon, where you're probably not going to take Lead Belly over this. And in New Vegas, you also have the problem of every 2 levels you get 1 perk, as opposed to Fallout 3, where every single level you got a perk, making it so that you need to pick what you want to specialize in even more and pushing Lead Belly even further down. Moving on to Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 for that matter, we have Lead Belly once again showing up as a perk, and in Fallout 4 this only requires 2 endurance to have, so it is one of the earliest endurance perks that you can get. Now, in Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 for that matter, you can get this multiple times. You can actually get it 3 times. You can get the first one at level 1, the second one at level 6, and the third one at level 17, where the final one makes it so that you're completely immune to radiation from food and water. This does actually help a little bit more in Fallout 4, and I think this is actually the strongest version of Lead Belly that we've gotten in Fallout, which, I mean, even so, it's still not one of the strongest perks ever, but it is better than it was in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, to where now complete immunity to radiation is actually a pretty big factor, and if you are playing on the survival difficulty in Fallout 4, this can be pretty useful, since in the survival mode in Fallout 4 you have to eat and drink fairly often, and building up your radiation is never a good thing because it counts towards your total amount of health, so you want to keep that low. So on a survival difficulty playthrough, Lead Belly is actually not a terrible quality of life perk to invest in, especially with its very low requirement of only having 2 endurance. So in that regard, it actually did find itself kind of a niche. It also helps that in Fallout 4 you have essentially unlimited perks, so you can just keep leveling up and get whatever you want. I'm not going to prioritize Lead Belly in any of my playthroughs in Fallout 4 as like a go-to perk to get right away, but once I have all of my go-to perks, this one could be a very nice just quality of life perk that I end up taking. And that'll do it for Lead Belly, largely regarded as one of the worst perks in the Fallout games, and in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas I would highly agree with that. In Fallout 4, did kind of find itself a niche. I'm not sure about 76, I haven't actually played 76. Maybe it fills the same role, in which case it does have a slight niche to it, but just kind of an interesting perk that's been around in the Fallout games for quite a while and has seen some changes. If you guys like this video and you'd like to see me talk about some other perks throughout Fallout's history, feel free to leave those down in the comments below. Some of them could be really interesting, especially from the older games and how they've gotten changed now. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye!